Welcome to another in the Bhagavad Gita series. There's some construction going on next door, I think. I hope that that doesn't affect the sound quality too much. We left off in the last Gita video talking about Guru Yoga and the difficulties involved in being able to approach it in a sincere way and not in a way that involves a kind of escapism. Krishna had presented it after trying to offer several different solutions, so to say, for this question of Arjuna's of what is enlightenment, what does an enlightened person look like? And it too didn't quite work out okay, because he immediately realized that Arjuna was going to look at this kind of surrender as exactly what he wanted it to be rather than what it should be, which is to say he wanted to escape from having to fight in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So the next two verses, verse 62 and 63 of chapter 2, they go, "One who is undisciplined in the senses will develop attachment. Attachment leads to desire. Desire leads to anger. Anger leads to deludedness. Deludedness leads to false perceptions. And one who perceives the unreal cannot be aware. Such a person will fall." If you added to the dark side at the end there, it would almost sound like something Yoda said, right? But I guess pop culture takes a lot, whether it knows it or not, from some of these ancient sources of wisdom. The interesting thing to consider at the beginning of these two verses is this question of someone who is undisciplined in the senses. In an effective system of practice, you need to have two main columns of the practical side of it. You should also have, besides that, some kind of a study of cosmology and some kind of a system of virtue. But in terms of the practice, the two things that you need are meditation, in the sense of insight, you could say, and discipline in the form of concentration. A lot of spiritual practices, or a lot of people who just kind of go looking for and try to figure out some kind of practice for themselves, will tend to fail in one or the other. These days, more often, they'll fail towards the sense of doing insight without doing concentration. And of course, perennially, since the beginning of time, there's been the failure of attempting to do these practices without developing discipline in general, right? But specifically, discipline in the senses is what Krishna is talking about. That's concentration. So the thing is, insight is meditation where you are paying attention. It's mindfulness, right? It's what these days we call mindfulness, right? And it's very important because it's the core, you could say, of what's necessary for the expansion of your awareness. But you also need to develop concentration, the ability to concentrate the body, concentrate the breath, concentrate the attention, the vision, concentrate the mind. And these are practices that are less common in sort of pop culture. And so without them, if you're just doing some kind of an insight practice, you're just being mindful, or if you're just sitting and trying to watch your breath or something like that, you could watch your breath till the end of time, but nothing will move from it, right? The disciplining of the senses, the word yoga, it means a yoke. It means to bind, right? To hold together. So you need a discipline of your senses in the sense of where do you direct your attention? Where do you direct your consciousness? If you're just practicing insight and you don't develop concentration, you can watch your consciousness, but it's just going to be like watching a wheel spinning over and over again. So if you're undisciplined in the senses, you will develop attachment. You will be distracted, in other words, by different things and say, I want that thing, I want this thing, I don't want that, I don't want that. And this leads to desire, right? The I want. Desire leads to anger. Anger, you could also say, is frustration, right? If you think that there's something outside that has distracted you and that this might be what you need or what you feel like is going to fix things for you or make you happy for a little while or for a long while or whatever, and you can't get it, then that's where suffering comes from, right? The Buddha said the same thing long after this. He said that existence is suffering, and suffering is caused by desire. Now, the desire he was talking about was attachment, was this idea of that you should have the ability to impose your will on the world, and that you don't, it pisses you off, right? So anger leads to delusion. If you're angry, you start getting these ideas. If you're desiring, if you're frustrated, you start getting these ideas of how things should be and how maybe it could be, or you try to find another solution based on fooling yourself, right? You say, well, I can't get rich, so I'm going to make everyone think that I'm a really spiritual person, right? Or I can't succeed in this meditation I'm trying to do, so instead I'm going to become a radical atheist, right? or anything like that. You know, I can't get the girl, so instead I'm going to become the top salesman in my tier, right? And you also will lie to yourself, right? You'll say, oh, well, you know, I don't really care about that, right? I'm not driven by my emotions, right? If you think, for example, that to be spiritual you can't show too many emotions, you're going to say, oh no, nothing bothers me, I'm just placid, and you know, you'll learn how to put on a mask, you'll put on a persona, but eventually you'll start being fooled by your own justifications. So it means you're going to be looking at something, looking at reality, and you won't be seeing it. You'll be seeing what you're projecting on it, right? You'll either be projecting your frustration that, oh, everything is wrong in the world because I can't have that one thing I want, or you're going to be projecting your fantasies, you know, that, oh, everything is okay, it doesn't matter, everything is all right, or I'm really this great thing over here, so it doesn't matter I don't have that, and stuff like this. If you perceive the unreal, if you're projecting your delusions instead of being able to discipline the senses and see what is real, it is impossible to be aware. You'll fall. You will fail at the practice, right? Because the practice requires that you must be able to see reality as it is. So this is the first step, so to say, to be able to have the senses in a single focus in a state of awareness. The next step will come in the next video.